Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome to episode 6 of the Batman podcast. As always, I'm your host, Everything Batman, co-host, BatForce Tom, and our special guest today is Jonathan. Some of you might recognize him, some of you may not, but you're going to know a lot about him after this episode. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
How's it going, man?
It's going. It's heating up here. I'm in suburbs of Chicago, and the weather is getting pretty dang warm and humid already. It's about 70 degrees today. It was like, I don't know, 40 the other day.
Yeah, that's the north for you, right? I think I'm in upstate New York, and it was like 70 degrees like a week ago, and this morning was like 32, and I'm like, Jesus.
Oh, didn't it rain? I mean, didn't it snow up there on April Fool's around there?
We got some snowflakes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's whatever. April's a hit or miss. You never really know what you're gonna get. You get snow, it could rain, it could get hot. Just you got to have all your gear out. But nothing like California here.
Yeah, man.
Hey, I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I think I honestly am gonna be spoiled for my whole life growing up there, because everywhere I go, I always compare it to the weather of Los Angeles. Always.
Yeah.
Do you miss it at all?
I do, but I don't. Because the reason why I don't miss it, because there's so much more things to see, so I don't really want to go back. But I do miss the convenience of having everything there all the time.
True. Awesome. Well, yeah, from LA. Awesome. All right, so let's just jump into it. Of course, as always, the first question I always ask: tell us about your origin story. What got you into comics? What got you into Superman? What made you the Seattle Superman?
Superman has always been my favorite superhero ever since I was a kid, for the most part. Like, this is one of, I don't know how many different T-shirts, but I honestly can't even remember now if it started with comic books or Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, or the Tim Daly Superman animated adventures. So, but anyway, along the lines, back in the 90s is when I really started liking the character a lot. And it just kind of grew from there into liking the character as how he is, as more of a personality and an ideal, as opposed to, being a superhuman, superpowers and being so overpowered and boring. To me, I like Superman for the most reason people find him boring, is that he just wants to be a good influence out there. And so that kind of progressed until Man of Steel came out, and I saw that new Superman suit, because I never really was into the Christopher Reeves suit to cosplay or take photos in. I didn't really care for it that much. But when I saw that Man of Steel suit, when those set leaks first leaked, and I was like, oh my God, I need a suit like that. And I found somebody to get a suit, and that's when I started, long story short, taking photos and stuff as Seattle Superman.
That's awesome. That is sick.
You like the suit is awesome, obviously. What did you think of the movie in general? Like, do you like it? I know a lot of fans, as far as like Superman fans, some love it, some hate it, some like parts of it, but like, where do you stand on that as a film?
I really love that movie. I saw it, I don't even know how many times, and I really liked how it made him more of like a relatable type of person to me. But also, so I kind of view these things differently, because I don't have this whole mentality of this should be one way and this should be another way. You know what I mean? Because I really can't. For what I'm trying to do, it would just go against from myself. You know what I mean? So I've never had that mentality when it comes to to any superhero at all. So in the aspect of, I pretty much judge and view Superman as a symbol and for like what he represents, not of the actor that's playing him or the suit that he wears or the person that's writing him. Like so many people do, you know, they just like, Christopher Reeves is my Superman. Oh, this is my Superman. Like, to me, this is Superman, like, period. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, I did like the movie. I thought it was a breath of fresh air in the whole, you know, Superman mythos. I've actually never seen the Christopher Reeve Superman all the way through. Still to this day.
I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah. But I have watched, you know, the Lois and Clark Supermans all the time with Dean Cain.
That show was great.
Yeah, it was. It was really good.
Isn't like the new show out now? Like,
yeah, I still haven't watched that one. I still haven't watched the pilot or the new episodes because I'm scared. I'm scared, man. Because the CW always has this way of doing this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't want to get drawn in, and then
disappointed.
Yeah.
People, so I'm right there with you as far as the show because I hadn't been keeping up with the Arrowverse or any of that stuff, and I'm just hadn't jumped into it. But the consensus that I've heard from people across the board is that the pilot at least was pretty impressive and actually pretty well done. So it sounds like at least it's a quality pilot. I don't know about the other episodes, but
yeah,
I was surprised to hear that.
Everybody says that. I was like, I should watch it, but then it's I don't want to get dragged in, you know.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, CW has like this history of like, oh, great superheroes, but then you watch the show and it's like, what is
they
this?
also start out strong sometimes, and then it just goes like, where is this going?
Yeah, like the Flash, which is so sad because I gave up on the Flash. Like I just stopped watching it. I have no idea how the 7th season is. I didn't watch like most of the 6th one. But I thought the Flash this season with Zoom and everything, it was just like the 1st and 2nd season was just so good. It's so good. And then it just kind of went like,
yeah. I think they all went that way.
The first 2 seasons of The Flash, I remember telling myself, I'm like, no one told me this show was this good. Like this show was so good. And then I can't remember if it was like halfway through the 2nd season or if it was like at the 3rd season. I'm like, all right, this is kind of taking it's taking a turn, and I don't know if I want to go down this road. But.
And honestly, now in hindsight, I don't think it's just because we were all sick of Arrow at that time, and like Flash was new, or if it was just like a good show all along. Because like, you know, Arrow is a typical CW show where it's like secrets and lies and secrets and lies. I don't want to talk like, you know, like something happens and you got to wait till the next week. Whereas Flash, like something will happen and then like, you know, the next commercial break, they talk about it. So the show like progressed really fast, which was like nice because it like had something going on all the time. But then it just started getting kind of a little bit repetitive with Savitar and all this other stuff. And I'm like,
yeah. Back to Man of Steel, though, like I still think Man of Steel probably out of all the Snyder movies has the best soundtrack. Like, I totally agree
with you.
I remember when that movie came out, just being blown away at how well the music fit with like. I remember thinking like, this is the best superhero music ever, and like, I can't remember the last time I would listen to a soundtrack, like any soundtrack, in my car, like. I don't care where I was going. That was the CD I had in my car 24/7 for probably like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It was so like as soon as I got out of that movie theater, I went and looked it up and I got it. And then like literally for the past next couple months, I would listen to Terraforming at the gym because I'm like, this song is just like so good, you know, it gets you so hyped. And that's why, because you know that was like a 10-minute long one. I'm like, this is just such a great, it's so good. And then to hear it in and then to hear that reprise in Zack Snyder's Justice League when he lands, and it's like, that was just so, to me, because you know how in Superman with like the trumpets and everything, it would be like the original Superman score by John Williams with the trumpets and everything, and it was like so triumphant and everything, and that like da, 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 da. So that was nice. and to have them mix like that trumpet fanfare with the Hans Zimmer type score at the beginning when he lands, I was like, that was such a good idea. That sounded so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Most consistent soundtrack of any of the universe so far, I would have to say, for sure.
I agree.
So yeah, Man of Steel is shit. I actually watched it about 2 weeks ago. I was watching all the Zack Snyder. I was watching like all this shit before the Zack Snyder was released, right? So I watched everything all over again. Then I was like, all right, I got to watch everything again and watch Zack Snyder's Justice League again for the second time. So I just went down this rabbit hole, and yeah, that movie was so good.
Yeah.
So back to origins and stuff. You said, do you currently read comics? Or
Yeah.
What's your current favorite Superman story or Justice League story, or like overall your favorite like Superman?
So Superman, it had to be Superman Grounded. Is like one of my favorite ones. I think it's by Michael Straczynski. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But pretty much, it's a story where Superman walks from like the East Coast to the West Coast, helping people along the way, trying to be like a normal person, like a normal human being, and trying not to use his superpowers. And of course, like Batman gets all annoyed because he's like, "You're putting everybody at risk by walking around the Earth and da 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 da." But that was like a really great story that just like shows the human side of how he was raised, or like wanting to be like relatable. And so that was good. As far as other comics go, I really love the Blackest Night run with the Green Lantern series. That one I thought was like done extremely well. That was great. And then going to the Marvel side of things, Superior Spider-Man, I think is awesome run. It's one of the best Spider-Man runs that I've read.
That's awesome. So now this is going to go into your traveling. So similar to we just said, Superman Grounded. Did that inspire you to travel the way you do right now?
It had a big hand in it, yeah.
It was like, as you said that, I was like, wait a minute. All right. Yeah. So how difficult is it finding comic shops, or like, because obviously if you're still reading, there's like that one of the first things you do when you hit a new town?
It is to go look for like things, but I don't buy anything anymore because I don't have room for it. So
true.
But I will go to shops when I come across them, or like see. I mean, it's kind of hard now because they were the ones that got hit a lot harder with COVID and everything. Like I went to one the other day that was about half an hour away from here, and he literally said he opened up like 2 months ago, and there were still like boxes and stuff to like resort out, and all this new merchandise that he had to put up and everything. But yeah, it's always fun looking in there and seeing what else is new. I mean, like if it's a really nice, because all these variant covers are sometimes just so beautiful, you want to display them. So it's like it really helps to look at them in person to see if I want to put it up or display it. But for the most part, I'll just download it through that like Comixology through Amazon and buy it, and then just read it on my tablet.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty convenient because you're traveling. And I just want to get into that real quick. So originally from LA, you became Seattle Superman, clearly in the Seattle area. What made you go up north?
So when when Man of Steel came out, that came out in like 2013, right? And I kept trying to find a suit to do photography and take photos and stuff, and then I couldn't find one. Then I literally, I was in Fort Worth at the time, and I think I literally went to like every seamstress I could find. I went to like every Joann's Fabrics and found like every single card you could think of, and tried calling all these places, and like nobody could make that thing. So I gave up on it. And like fast forward to 2016, I almost got in a car accident, which like really, it was one of those like wake you up type moments. I did a 180 on a freeway, and that kind of like really shook me because I didn't like hit nothing. It was like rush hours, 6 p.m. Totally came this close from hitting the median in the freeway. And after that, I was just like, oh crap, I I could have died or like, paralyzed or something that I couldn't do any of the things that I wanted to do. So the reason why I never did that before is because I worked and had a really great job I worked for Union Pacific. It was a really good paying job, but I had no life. Like, I don't know if you know anybody in the transportation industry, but people that work in transportation, whether they're truckers, railroad, freight, even like, airline, they're always back and forth, always moving. They don't have time to do anything, but they make, pretty decent living. Yeah. And so I just was in that habit of doing that because it was paid a lot. But when I was done, when I was got in an accident, I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to try to make money being creative because that's what I really love to do. And so that was in August of 2016. I decided not to renew my lease, which was up in November of that same year. And so I walked into the office and turned in all my stuff and I quit. I literally within a week bought a van that I found for like $800 off of OfferUp or Fiverr, one of those websites, OfferUp or Five something or other. And then I threw away or gave away everything that I wanted that I didn't need. And I kept everything that I wanted to fit in the van. And then I drove out to Seattle and found a guy on Etsy that made my Man of Steel suit. And that's how I found that. So then I ordered it in Seattle, and then the rest I just kind of did from there.
That's sick. And that's 2016, you said, right? When all this started. How did that feel? Just to like, I'm done with working here. I'm going to live my life.
It felt really well, actually. It's traveling is always something that I love to do. But the part of doing that, it was like I could have seen the alternative, like in that whole moment, blink of an eye thing. And I think that's like one of those, because we all have these like moments of being inspired or we want to go do stuff and this and that. Like I said, like I wanted to find a suit. I just couldn't find one. And I just gave up after searching. Like, I never thought to continue looking more or like look on Etsy or places like that. But the whole little instance made me more determined. And I picked Seattle because one, I thought like Seattle Superman has a nice ring to it. And I just wanted to see if I could like grab myself that just out of my own, curiosity. And two, I was in Fort Worth. Like Fort Worth is not really scenic at all, other than like Texas, unless you drive to the southern regions. Yeah. And 2016 was like right around the time Instagram was like really popular with all like, the scenic photos and the West Coast and like, all this cool stuff. Like 2016 Instagram was all about like the nature and the pretty people in the wilderness and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I bet if I like took a Superman suit to these areas and took photos like that, because I didn't see it done before at all. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I want to try to do this and see what happens. And that's why I picked Seattle, because it's Pacific Northwest. You got Oregon, Seattle, everywhere up there. It's all beautiful.
Beautiful.
I'm like, I'm going to go over there and see what happens. So that's pretty much the only reason why I chose Seattle. And
Dunk was saying how a lot of your photos, like it's just you and your camera and like a timer. Yeah. So like I thought, just based looking at the photos, I'm like, oh, this guy's got a good photographer, but that's just you. I was gonna say that's you. So like, did you have a background in photography before the cosplay stuff? Like, obviously, you have a really good eye. So like, how did you get into photography, and how did you you're good, man. Like this stuff, like I said, this looks like someone else is taking it, because like, especially the stuff where like you're jumping up in midair or you're flying. I'm like, he did that? Like, okay. So how did the photography thing start for you?
Well, I was using like Photoshop and everything back in 2002, 2004 ish. So like the graphic design aspect is something I've always loved. I started doing photography in 2009 because I wanted to take my own photos for like stock images and stuff. So I bought my first camera in 2009. It was a Rebel T1i, and that's what I used to practice on. So the first year, I have a video up somewhere. All of 2010, I made myself take at least one photo a day, and I never deleted any memory cards. And so by the end of 2010, I had 9,000 photos throughout all these memory cards. and actually like put it together in a video to have like my whole 2010 play. But that's pretty much how like I wanted to learn. I made sure to touch my camera at least every day the first year I got it. Back then, YouTube wasn't really that huge of a thing in 2009 for learning stuff, in 2009, I believe. So I would like go to Barnes and Noble or even Borders because they were still around close to that. And I would just look at the photography magazines. Another thing that I like to do was go into photography shops and show my DSLR screen to people that work there and ask them their advice and stuff like that.
Oh, so smart.
So that's how I pretty much self-taught myself how to learn. And then obviously as the years progressed, I would I bought a Canon Rebel T1i for Dummies book so I could try to learn my camera and everything, But so as the years progressed, I would start looking at YouTube and things of that nature as well. But when I first started, that's how I would learn, was just go like bring a notepad to Barnes and Noble and just like write down stuff out of the magazines.
So is that like how your mind works? It sounds like it sounds like something piques your interest. You kind of, something tickles your fancy, but you don't just kind of like it. It sounds like you dive like really deep into that stuff. Like, is that kind of how your mind works?
Yeah, that would be a fair assumption. I guess there are two sides to that coin though, because I don't like to sound. When it's all myself, it's great, but I don't want to be like so overbearing with other people because I figure I can be, but I get so wrapped up in stuff. And I'm like, I think that's why I just figure I'm going to just do this by myself a lot because I get so focused on what I want to do,
Yeah. And the way that works, because like if you're by yourself, it's like there's no other distractions or anything else to stop you from what your main focus is. And I've learned that recently where like, if I'm focused, if I want to get something done or I have a goal or like I'm interested in something, I can't have anyone else around me. It's like, no, this is my mindset. Let me focus on this. Let me get it done. Oh, it's done now. Awesome. And, no distractions. But yeah, I'm happy you looked at noticed that it was his own photography, Tom. When I first learned that, I think there was a video that you posted. I'm not sure if it was your story or a post. And it was just like, you were like, this is how I take my pictures. And it was just like you jumping and like, you see the camera flashing and like, you just keep on jumping. And I was like, no fucking way. And then you showed the picture that you actually post. And it's like, that's a hell of a creative mindset to know, to take your own picture and visualize what you want. And just continue doing it until you get that image. It's like it's amazing.
Well, I mean, like I gotta admit though, like it's gotten a lot easier for 10 years because the first camera I had, I mean, like I had a 10-second self timer, and it would literally only take like one photo after 10 seconds on that T1i, or like maybe 3 or 4, and it wasn't like sophisticated enough to focus on something. So I would literally have to like look through the viewfinder where it was gonna, focus, and then I would like have to count and like click it and then count and try to like time myself to be at the same spot. And I did that for like, that's how I started taking all my other photos of myself way back in, the early 2010s. Now, like they have apps on your phone. Like with the camera I have now, I could use my phone as a viewfinder. And I could like, push the button on my phone, it'll take a photo. But even then I still use the self timer. I'll just hit the self timer, but I'll already be composed and I'll know where I'm standing. And then it'll count down. And then I'll just, by now I actually know like when to jump by the time it flashes off. But, like people look at this stuff and like, oh, that looks easy. I'm like, well, I've been doing it for 10 years. I mean,
yeah.
You're making it look easy.
That's why like I see the pictures that you take and like the lighting specifically, like I was kind of geeking out on the lighting. I'm like, man, this lighting's fucking good. Like this is some good lighting. Like, oh man, look at like, that's just like, that looks nice. And then, if you don't, for any normal person that maybe doesn't take photos or doesn't know, it's like, oh, that's a nice picture. It's like, yeah, but that's a really nice picture. Like this could be like in a magazine. This was obviously not done on a cell phone. Like you could tell that this person knows how to edit. They know how to like frame. They know how to do the lighting, and You know, all those things take a lot of patience and time to learn. So obviously you've had the time, considering like, you know, you've been doing it for a while. So it makes sense now. It's like, okay, yeah, that's why they look so good. It's like he's figured it out. So.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
A couple of years does the trick, you know, being consistent. Yeah, along with the photography, along with the Batman suit,
Superman suit.
Superman suit.
What was
Damn.
that? Don't wishful thinking.
Edit that out. No, well, along with the Superman suit and everything, have you been attending cons, and how's that experience going?
I have actually. The last con I went to was NYC Comic Con, actually 2019. I was there for the whole weekend. It was my first time at that one. It was amazing.
Insane, right?
And before that, I was at Emerald City Comic Con for 2 years in a row. When I lived in Seattle, that was nice. Before that, like my very first Comic Con was San Diego Comic Con in 2008, and I went as Hancock because I think that was the year that movie came out, and I dressed up as Hancock and went, and that was such a good weekend too. Back in 2000, that
was your first con?
That was my first San Diego Comic Con.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I mean, everyone's first con is San Diego. I'm over here like I'm dying to go to San Diego Comic Con. Come on, open up already, please.
It was so good. But in between those, I've been to a couple other ones, like Dallas Fan Expo has one. There's another one like Tacoma that I've been to.
How's that cosplaying for you? Like when, you know, is it how's it when everyone's like, hey, can I take a picture of you? Or like when you see kids come up, like how's that experience?
Oh, it's great. I like it a lot. I mean, like, but now when I'm out and about, like in Superman, people stop and ask me for photos too all the time. So it's like, if I'm at a con, you know, I'll have pictures taken with people. But when I'm on the street, like the other day I was in Chicago and trying to take some photos, and this car literally like did a U-turn in the alley. I drove up, and he just stuck his phone out the window and was like,
That must feel cool though. Like,
yeah, it's cool.
Well, I think it's especially right now, like there's no cons. There's not like you can go somewhere and see somebody cosplaying. So like when you drive down the street and you see somebody, you're like, oh, like it's like your only taste of it right now. So
I was ready to go to Times Square the other day and like just run over and take pictures with those guys because I need something, man. Like this is.
Dude, I should go. I mean, like I can't wait to. I did take some photos in Times Square when I was in New York, though, so that was nice. But I really do need to go back up to New York and get some more stuff done, some more photos. So
you wasn't New York that was your last con? That was like the last con too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like before COVID, right? 2019. Yeah, October. Was it October?
Yeah, October 2019.
Yeah, I was there too.
That's the last one.
I'm like, I can't believe I missed you. I was just stuck geeking out trying to get signatures and shit, but. Yeah, that was like the last.
That's wild to think. Yeah, like, the last con
2 years ago. But I think
man,
the one that if you could have made it, I think it was C2E2. But like February was like sketchy for everyone, and like that was like the last thing. And then
did they have C2E2 in February?
Yeah, okay. That was the last thing, and then everyone just stayed at home.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm in Chicago now too. I mean, like, but I don't think that's supposed to be here until the end of the year, right?
Yeah, they're saying December.
Yeah, I mean, like they're all, even the one in San Diego. I mean, in Seattle, is supposed to be December too.
Yeah, if they're all going to be end of the year, man, it's going to be like that's fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't see that happening too well with vacations, Christmas time, the holidays. Like people don't have time for that.
The snow, like I don't know, but I'm like I live in Albany. The winters are tough here. You think I really want to go to Chicago in December?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Like Chicago wasn't Chicago like the coldest like spot in the country one time period? And I was just like, it was like -30. I'm like, I'm not trying to experience -30 for a Comic-Con, but maybe I am. I don't know. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah.
Hey man, San Diego supposedly is supposed to do it in November, like the day after Thanksgiving. Yeah. The day after Thanksgiving.
We'll see. I mean, like all this stuff. There's going to be so much stuff going on, you know.
Well, yeah, once everyone gets vaccinated, everyone's going to try to get their money back somehow. So God knows. The thing is, you could have all those cons and everything, and people could want to go, but like, are the other creators going to show up? Are we going to have like Tom King, Ron Murphy, Scott Snyder? Are we going to have like actors going? Are we going to have panels? Or is it going to be just a bunch of us happy as shit that we could finally, meet up and like take pictures and buy stuff and like just be together again? And even if it's that, it's still going to be a good time.
Yeah, I think the camaraderie will help. I mean, it'll probably, because I wanted to go to Dragon Con. I never went to that too. I was looking forward to go to that one because I heard that one's like the whole party con, But I imagine that's how all the cons will be from now on everywhere.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
Hey, this might be our last one. Let's go crazy.
Everyone's going to make up for it for missing a year of cons.
I think the majority of people who are going to, like, let's say if they do them, like especially like the San Diego one, it'll be probably mostly like vendors, like old school vendors, the way they used to do it, and then like cosplayers and like that's pretty like just like an old school con, which is comprised of fans, cosplayers, and vendors. That's how they all used to be. So I think it'll probably be something really similar. Like I don't really see a lot of celebrities or big studios or big publications like getting people to want, like, if you have an opportunity, if like like none of these guys, especially the ones who aren't struggling, like they're gonna wait. If they have the option of waiting it out, they're gonna wait it out. People who really want to go are gonna go, and that's gonna be the fans.
And I just got, like, a friend of mine just got a Funko Pop in the mail, which was like one of the big things that they had at Emerald City or a lot of these cons. You know how they'll have like, people will specifically go to these cons just to get a limited edition Funko Pop. And this year they did the whole lottery online and then mailed it out. So, I mean, like that's like one big aspect there, like already. And you can't miss it. Funko displays anywhere you go to a con.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Insane. It's insane. I actually, in 2019, I won the lottery for Funko. It was it Thursday? Yeah, it was Thursday at 12, right? And Todd McFarlane signing was at 2. So at 12 o'clock, I jump in the line, and I'm like, all right. They're like, oh, this is the 11 o'clock line. 11 o'clock line. I'm like, yo, it's fucking 12 o'clock. I'm standing in this line right here. Like, I'm not moving, And then it was like, for the 2 o'clock signing, you should start lining up at 1:30 for Todd McFarlane. It was like 1:15 and the line hasn't moved. And I'm like, damn, man, I'm trying to get this Batman Chrome. Like, that's all I want. I don't care about anything else. And I had like other people who are Funko collectors. Yo, if you get this, get that. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll hook people up. Once like 1:30 hit, I was like, nah, I gotta go, man. It's Todd. It's the Todd father. Like, I gotta go see him. That's more important than a Funko Pop. And I left the line and I was like, damn, I'm never good to see that Batman Funko. But it's all right. It's all right. I met Todd, took a picture with him.
You can still see the sadness in your eyes talking about that, man.
Not even that. Is I wasted an hour and a half standing there. And it's like, that was time I could have done so much other things, but it was so unorganized that I couldn't. An hour and a half wasn't enough for me to get to my time, my 12 o'clock slot. But met the Todd father, so no complaints there.
Yeah.
Where was I? Oh, so back to cons and all that, and your Batman suit. When it comes to cons and stuff, is there anyone like cosplayers? Because obviously, you're part of the cosplay community. Is there anyone that you look up to, or like when you look at, you're like, oh wow, that's a good idea. Maybe I could do something similar to that, or are you just like, nah, I'm my own person. I'll create, and hopefully people replicate or try to do something that I do.
More along the latter parts of that. So before the whole Superman suit, like, I wasn't in the cosplay community before any of the Superman stuff, like, at all. I didn't know who anybody was. And the same thing went with, like, when I started photography, even on Instagram, I didn't go follow a bunch of like famous Instagram photographers and look at all the stuff, because I wanted to try to put everything together myself. So to answer your question, there is really nobody that I look up to when it comes to that stuff. But then again, to even like further answer your question, I think that's just always how I've been. Like, some of my parents always taught us like a long time ago. It's like never put anybody on a pedestal, like period, or like look up to anybody. And that's like always stuck with me, you know?
Yeah.
So in that long run aspect, it's just like everybody's out there doing what they want to do for the most part. I kind of understand, although not really. Like it's something this year that I've had to, I guess, kind of, and I don't really like talking about this because it makes me sound like I'm cooler than I am, but like it's gotten to the point to know that like people do look up to me. And that's the first time I've ever said that out loud, because I'm like, yeah, it's just me. Like, you know what I mean? So I haven't really thought about it, because I'm like, no, nobody looks up to me. It's just me doing this stuff. And in reality, like I know there are certain people that do, but I just want people to be themselves. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole aspect of this, because people will inevitably disappoint you. You can look up to me all you want, but if I tell you that like I'm a Christian or I'm a Democrat and you're like hardcore some other way, you're like, oh, this guy, you know, like it can always be one thing. It can always be like that one thing that makes you just like fall from heaven in somebody's eyes. You know, so that's why I just never really had that mentality with anything.
Which is perfect, because it's like, you know, as you said, with Superman, there's a symbol. That's what he represents. That's what you focus on. You focus on what Superman is as a character, not everything else.
Yeah,
there's no reason to focus on everything else. Which is actually, honestly, a really good answer, because I remember my parents always saying, "Don't look up to anyone else. Don't put anyone on a pedestal. Like you're your own person. Build your own person, and then, just make sure you're doing the right thing. Whatever. Blah 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 blah." But no, that's perfect. Which now, before we go to our next segment and we go review some photos, we were talking before this how like I watch these shows with little homes and all this stuff, and people like traveling in their cars and all that stuff. How's that experience with you? Because you mentioned you got this van. There's a couple of pictures on your Instagram with the inside of the van and stuff. And how's that full experience of like, I don't know, you're traveling the country, you're checking out these landmarks, these hikes, these trails, scenery, and you got your van, and it looks like you got everything you need right in there.
It's really fun, but first let me just explain the mindset of why it's fun. So, and this will make a little bit more sense. I haven't been through like everything in the world, but to myself, I've been through enough stuff to where I've coming out on the other side still alive. And I say like still alive, not because I'm like escape death, but because situations that I personally thought were so dire, and then, like not having enough money, or, like being in credit card debt and can't figure out how you're going to get out of it. Like, or like not having a job, or having bills to pay, or like, moving and like all this stuff. And then you come out of that situation, you're like, this wasn't as stressful as I thought it was. Like, the hindsight is always like, oh, why was I freaking out so much about that? So that is something that I've literally tried to adapt in my every day-to-day, is having that hindsight of like, if I'm not gonna freak out about it next year, and this is something I do too, like if I'm like worried about something, I'll write it down, and only for the sole purpose of knowing that like a year from now I might forget like what I was even so worked up about. So when it comes to the whole van thing, this van is my third van.
Okay.
The first van that I bought for $1,800 broke. Go figure. I mean, for $800 broke. It was like the first day going through some really scenic overpass in Seattle. I started to go. I blew a head gasket. I blew a head gasket about 30 or 40 miles away from where I actually worked.
Damn.
So I had to stop literally every, 2 miles to put water in the damn thing. It took me like an hour to get back. I found a parking garage to park the car. And I lived out of the parking garage for 2 months because I couldn't move my car, having 2 jobs to save up $1,000 to buy my next van, which was an original owner 1990 van from Boeing. And then that one lasted me for a while until that started having problems. And then I got a job in Montana when I moved to Montana. And by the time I got a job that moved to Montana, the van that I had, the dash, all the electrical work in the dash went out. So I didn't know how fast I was going. I didn't know how much fuel I had. I didn't know like if the heat worked, but I was like, that's when So I drove from Seattle, Washington to Montana, which was 1,100 miles, not knowing any of that stuff.
Jesus.
And like, so that was like a really big, hopefully I make it. So then I found the van that I have now. I bought that for like $4,000 in North Dakota. And that one's been like the most stable van that I've had. But I say all that to say, like, yes, it is nice to go and do everything, but also because I don't have worries about stuff. For instance, in Seattle, when I was living in the van, what I would do was go to 24-hour fitness to take showers, or any gym that was open 24 hours, I would get a membership. That doesn't exist anymore due to COVID. You can't take showers anymore at a lot of these gyms. That like immediately went out the window, and I have to deal with that. And like I went to Philadelphia one day trying to take some photos, like kind of like in the Christmas time when we thought that COVID would like die down, and everybody was just out and about. And I was like, man, then I had to like really use the bathroom, but not like number one, number two. I tried going to all these gas stations. There were lines like in Philadelphia out the gas station with the 6 feet apart, and I'm like, man. So like I literally had to drive. I literally drove to Delaware to a mall just to go to the food court to take a shit that day. So it's just like, it's stuff like this is like the non-glamorized, part of this stuff. Yeah. Like when I take photos of my van, you don't see the jug full of pee that I have, hidden somewhere when I'm out and about driving around everywhere. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's fun to have that type of freedom to do all this stuff, but it's not as glamorous if you don't like view it as that. Like, I didn't make my van really Pinteresty looking cool cabinets, stuff like. Yeah, I literally have like 3 sleeping bags in my van that if I was sleeping in it, I'll just put a sleeping bag on the ground and then I'll put blankets on top of me, and then that's it. And I'll wake up in the morning and then go. I don't have like all this cool, like, wanderlust vibe, cool stuff. It's just like me in the van, like just sleeping in the back of it. And like the other day, I just had to spend like $500 on new brake pads and rotors out of nowhere, because they started squeaking, and I'm like, I can't really afford to have something bad happen, so let me just take care of this now. So it's always like, head on a swivel, checking your car, making sure everything's going well. But man, like just being able to, like I was telling you, I'm going to drive up to Milwaukee tomorrow, which is 2.5 hours, and just like, drive around, look, come back here to the hotel. And that's like the aspect that I love, because I know I could just go do that. But getting to that point has been this whole thing. Like, it wasn't fun living in a parking garage for like my very first summer in Seattle is when that happened. So all of 2017, that whole first summer was spent working, washing dishes, and then sleeping, washing dishes during the daytime, and then busing at the Lucky Strike in Bellevue at night till I could save up enough money. And like my last job, I was making $100,000 before I quit. So I still had all my credit card bills. I still had all the shit. So I was trying to pay all my bills, pay my storage, because I put all my stuff into a storage container in Seattle. I had to pay that, pay my phone, pay all this stuff, and then still try to save up extra money to buy a car, which is why I got 2 jobs. So I say all that stuff to say, like, yeah, it's fun and it's cool to go about and do all this stuff, but I have that also mentality that like things are always just going to work out for me. If you're one of those people that are like, oh shit, like, like I need gas money, or like, how am I going to, it's a whole thing. Like I couldn't eat after a certain time because I didn't want to wake up in the middle of the night to take a shit. Like Walmarts aren't open 24 hours anymore. You know what I mean? You can't just go sleep in a Walmart parking lot now because things are different. So you got to like all figure it out. So if you have this mentality, like you're going to figure stuff out and it'll work, that goes in your favor. If you're a worrywart and always thinking about like what could go wrong, that's not going to bid well for you if you're trying to be out and about doing stuff.
That's intense. Wow. I was just like, because I've thought about it, right? But it's like, can I, should I? And I don't know. God knows what's going to happen within the next year. I definitely have to get rid of all this stuff.
I have to feel like all my Superman stuff that I've had, like I got rid of a lot of stuff, but some stuff I put and it's just been in storage ever since.
Yeah.
So it's like whenever I decide to get it out again, I love, like, I wish I could have my Kotobu Kia's Superman like sitting over here with this flexible cape and everything, and like all this cool stuff. And I have a bunch of comic books signed by some people, and it would be nice. But at the time, I really enjoy doing this at the moment. And like, if you're willing to go, take showers at truck stops and things of that nature, then that's fine too.
Yeah. Tom, you're on mute.
Sorry, I got a kid making noise in the back. I don't want to make it stand out too much. But yeah, there's like an amazing feeling of freedom that you have when you kind of make a choice to not get tied down by certain things. And like we just had an episode we just had an interview an episode or two ago. We were talking to Nerdy Girl Comics, and she was talking about like her collection and the things that she sells. And all of it pretty much stems from the fact that like she made a decision to like not let herself, not that she doesn't care, but it's like these things come and go. Like this stuff, I can always go out and get this again if I wanted to. But like, if it doesn't have utility for me, why am I going to let it tie me down? And like, it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, why are you going to let something hold you back if it's not doing anything for you? Like, why do you hold on to it? And that can be kind of like an analogy for anything. And like, once you have that ability to kind of change the way you think and let yourself kind of just go freely, you really do free yourself up a lot. Like, there are certain things I think that you're probably afraid to do because you don't know what the outcome's going to be. But if you just like say, fuck it, like I'm just going to do it, and it works out to your benefit, and then you realize like, oh my God, like you said, like, you had all that fear of all the stuff that you weren't going to be able to overcome. Then you overcome it and you're like, hey, I did that. Like, I was able to get through that. Like, I fucking survived. Like, this is okay. I know I can keep doing that. So I think there's something to be said about that, and it's always cool to hear people who have the ability to let go of things like that and like overcome fear in that sense and live a life that they want to, because it's so, we see it as so unconventional, but it's like, dude, that's like the freest way to live. It's like, you don't have to worry about all these things that are tying certain people down. So yeah, man.
And the other part is like, there's sacrifices to live that life. And if you really want to live it, you go through the sacrifice, and it's rewarding because you're willing to go through that stuff and those hardships, like you said, like, finding places to shower, not being able to eat certain times because you don't want to take a shit in the middle of the fucking night.
That's really like, thinking ahead.
Yeah, that's like, I was like, all right, cool. Let me make these adjustments because if I want to continue this lifestyle, there's adjustments and stuff I got to make. You analyze your circumstances, and it's like, all right, cool. This is the way things have to go. And a lot of people don't have that mindset. People just freak out. People just like, and they freeze and not know what to do. And that's awesome that you had that mindset. And it's like, it just goes along with everything else you're doing. It's like, I got to take my own photography. What do I got to do? All right, let's figure this shit out, And it's like, that's amazing that you had that mind. Thanks for sharing that. I'm pretty sure someone's going to listen to this and be like, you never know. You might inspire someone else to do the same thing.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't talk about that expertly. Like, people are like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, until they realize, like, yeah, it's really not that cool. I mean, it's cool for me, and it's cool for a lot of people, but it's cool,
What you see is cool.
Yeah.
What you don't see, it's like,
people don't get like living in the van. They think like living in the van, you're just traveling around doing everything 24/7. But like, if you live in a house, sometimes you get bored. Sometimes you don't want to do stuff. Sometimes you just want to sit around and read or like play PlayStation. Well, if you're in a van and you don't have any of that stuff, like, there are little been times where I'll just sit in my van in a parking lot in like shade and like just watch shit on my phone or not do anything, because you still are yourself. You just in a really tiny little box. And if you know what I mean? So if you can't do that, that's like, you're with yourself a lot. So that's another aspect of it too.
Yeah, it's nuts. Tom, let's go to the next round. Let's start looking at some pictures of this guy.
Cool. All right.
I'm pumped about this.
Alrighty, let's do this one. Is awesome.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty. That's Trucking Spartan. That was a fun time. That's New York Comic Con.
Yeah, that's that section where all the cosplayers always get photo shoots done and everything.
Yeah.
I see someone in the back. I don't know if it's a Batman or somebody's. Looks like they're roughing somebody up behind you there.
Man, I'm looking at this now. I'm like, that was like, I took that time for granted so much now. Like, look at all of us without our mask on, having fun.
Yeah.
So,
Go
right ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say, like, I see pictures like this, and I always think back, like, what a simpler time. Like, no masks, people everywhere. Like, it almost gives me anxiety.
For this picture, did you both jump at the same time? Is this Photoshop? Like what?
No, we both jumped at the same time. I pretty much told him how to jump with your knees, and we'll do that. So yeah, I counted to 3, and then we jumped at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's amazing.
That was just one take?
I think we did that in 2 or 3.
It's pretty impressive. Here's another one.
Oh,
this is so sick.
That one I think that was like my very first. So I actually did not take this one. This was the very first photo that I had taken with another photographer. When I started, like, air quotes, making a name for myself in Seattle, this photographer reached out on Instagram, and we did like a little photo walk. And this was one of the very first photos that he took of me in 2017. In my Superman suit in Seattle, and I will always be thankful for that. That was like the very first photographer to reach out and want to shoot with me with cosplay outside of, like, because he never did any of that stuff before too. So his name is Oleg Zarsky, and he does some really great stuff.
This is Seattle downtown.
Yeah, that's in an alley in Seattle.
That's a cool background there.
So this is my self-portrait in Seattle. That's at the Suzzallo Library. I think it's at like the University of Washington there in downtown Seattle. So they had this like that's a library, and it was just so beautiful. And I'm like, you know what? I want to bring a comic book there and take a photo. So like literally, this is an afternoon, as you can see, everybody studying. I walk in there with my tripod and my suit, and I walk to the very end of the library, and I set that stuff down, and then I start trying to take a picture. That whole thing took me about maybe 20 minutes to take after about 3 or 4 jumps, because I kept trying to be as quiet as I could without.
Yeah.
But yeah, people go to the library all the time to take photos and stuff. Luckily, I went like on a Monday, at like noon, so there wasn't really anybody else there.
It looks like something from like Hogwarts. Like, wow.
Yeah, that's some nutty architecture for sure.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful library.
This one's crazy.
That's a fun
one. That was good. So that one, I didn't take the photo. I was actually at my very first street meet in Seattle. So there was like a street meet there, and you know how you used to have street meets where people would have like Instagram meetups and take photos of photographers and models. So I went to one. I'm like, I'm just going to go with my Superman suit. And I was the only person there dressed up. And and that was me, that pose. I was trying to practice different poses from what I would normally do. And that's how that one turned out, because I wanted to try to do different poses. And then, somebody captured that one. So that one's pretty good.
That looks amazing.
That's awesome. This one's cool.
That one, that was my first time at Emerald City Comic Con, and that was like such a blast. To the photographer there, I hung out with that guy Batman pretty much all day, and we were just walking around taking photos with people. And then we went out to the back and like, hey, we'll try to take this photo of me levitating next to him like a world's finest. And we did that one in I think we did that on one take. One we did a test shot jump, and then the other one, that was how that came out. And so that was like actually one take there.
And that's like your cape. That's like just the natural flow of the jump.
Yeah.
That's
cool,
amazing,
man.
right? Like, and that's Seattle Batman, right?
That is no, that's P&W Batman. Yeah, Batman
Okay.
in Seattle. No, that wasn't him. Although we need to see. We had planned to take photos together too, Batman Seattle and myself, but then I moved out of Seattle.
I did
Yeah.
see on your Instagram though you did have one with him.
Yeah. Oh, that was the second time that I went to Emerald City Comic Con where he's jumping.
Oh, yeah. He's an awesome Keaton Batman cosplayer.
He
That's
is.
cool.
And every time I find something at thrift stores that have like the Michael Keaton, I always get it and mail it to them.
That's awesome.
Nice.
This one's also awesome.
No, that one was a self-portrait. I went to London in 2017 for the first time, and I set my camera up, and obviously right there. I mean, I wish that the Big Ben wasn't half scaffolding, but I think that's supposed to still be there for another 3 or 4 years. And then I just put it on a timer and had it click. That one had a timer that took 10 photos. It took 10 consecutive photos after the timer went off. And I did that maybe 3 times exiting. And then that one of those times that guy was looking at me.
It just like randomly happened perfectly.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, he looks like, oh shit. Yeah, and I like the kid. The kid is reacting to the guy.
Yeah.
What is this guy looking at? He was on his face.
This one's awesome.
Yeah, that was there's this lady, a teacher named Lisa Dills, and she reached out to me on Instagram. She's like, hey, she teaches that class, and she asked me, she said, hey, can you bring your Superman suit to my school, and kind of like give a little anti-bullying speech. And so I like wrote down an anti-bully speech and I gave that to her class. And that was a really good day. That was a really, really fun time, kind of like being an inspiration to these kids that like, to them, like people that do this are, they're on TV or they're like comic book people. And then to have somebody come to their class actually dressed up and stuff like that. It was just fun. I was playing, games with them, checkers and stuff, or drawing on the whiteboard, like just doing arts and crafts stuff. It was a nice time.
That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. This is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I saw this. I had to get it on this.
So that was a self-portrait too. I went to, there's a place called Silver Spoon Records, I think, in Seattle. And I was like, I want to take I don't know how I got the idea for this, but I was like, I wanted to take a picture of covering my Superman logo with the Batman one. And I went to the record store and I was digging through records and I saw that one. I'm like, you know what, this will work. So I asked a guy. Well, actually, it's funny because whenever I do stuff like this, I'll like go in because I lived in my van, so I would change in my van.
Yeah.
I go in there and ask them like, hey, can I bring like a camera in here and take photos? And if they said yes, I'm like, okay, sure. So then I leave and then I go change, and like 20 minutes later I walk back in my Superman suit and I'm like, what the hell?
Forgot to mention that part.
I'm also bringing my suit.
So I'll come back in and set up the tripod and stuff and take a photo. And that one, I'm holding that. By this time I had my phone take the photo of me. So like, you can see how my hand is like gripping the thing a little bit harder than it should because I'm holding my cell phone on the other side of that record with my thumb. And I pushed the button with my hand. It took like a 2-second timer. Then I quickly put my hand on my chin to pose. And then that's how I took that photo.
So was this record in that shop or did you get that one from before?
It was in the shop.
That day that you decided to take the photo?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this is like the perfect situation. And the posters in the back.
Yeah.
They still had them up because this was, that movie had already came out or just still. Yeah, because that was Batman versus Superman. And when did that come out? 2016 or
2016.
Yeah, so this was, by the time this photo was taken, it was already 2017. Like Christmas time-ish.
Wow. So they just so happen to have the posters up. They just so happen to have the Prince Batman '89 record in the
Yeah, I was like,
shop.
you guys have. Yeah, I was like, do you guys have the Batman soundtrack here? And they're like, no. I'm like by Elfman. They're like, no. And I was like, and they're like, well, I think we have one by Prince though. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me see that. And I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah, actually, this is the best. This is the better one because the Elfman cover is, I think, the moon covered by the Batwing. So this is like the perfect. Like they just had the perfect one.
Yeah.
So that I didn't know that worked out really good.
Yeah, like it worked out perfectly. That's why I'm saying. I'm like, wait, did you bring that in, or they had that in there?
No, they had it.
Yeah, that just literally worked out perfect. So that's probably my favorite one out of all of them. But I mean, they're all great. But that one's obviously for obvious reasons. I love '89, but this one's also great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was another self-portrait there. I took that in Birmingham, Alabama. I went to the top of a parking structure on top of this like cement column, which is you can see at kind of at the bottom there where I'm about to land on. And then it was maybe like a 3-foot column. I set my camera up on a timer that took 10 pictures after it would count down 10 seconds and then take a continuous 10 photos. Mm-hmm. So I set the camera down, hit the shutter button. It'll count down 10 seconds. I ran up to, then I would run up to that column, hop on top of it, and then get in a position to like take a little jump. And that was another pose that I was practicing as opposed to like trying to have more of a like I'm about to land type pose there. Mm-hmm. So that was like a practice in itself kind of photo shoot.
That's awesome. I got it.
And I colored the photo to look like a black suit.
What, just like Zack Snyder did with the Justice League film. That's exactly what they did. So I mean, looks awesome. You edited that?
Yeah, I edited it in Photoshop and took about 3 or 4 different layers of black and the different levels because blacks and whites look different through all the different CMYK channels. But that one took me about an hour to edit or so with that.
That's cool. You have a more recent one too of I think it's like I can't remember what the photo looks like specifically, but there's another one that you recently put up where it's also an awesome looking black suit that you did, which is really cool. So
thank you.
Going back to this one real quick. So do you have your settings set up so do you do a lot of like editing and post, or is this just like you just know your camera and it's just going to take pictures like that for you every time?
I do a lot of the editing in post. I mean, like there's some things like to bring out the colors more and to make them pop. Like this photo, I'm actually really, really proud of this photo because I was looking at YouTube videos to try to make the colors stand out more, like the tones pop a little bit more. Because like cosplay aside, in this photo, this is like one of those typical Instagram photos that you would see of like a really great moody setting in a record store. You know what I mean? So I was like, I want to try to take a photo like that in cosplay, and like have that really, really aesthetically Instagram type vibe to it. So I watched a couple tutorials on how to get make really good tones and stuff, and then I set up the camera and took the photo. And then I just kind of learned how to work with curves layers and adjustment layers to learn coloring the photos mostly. So and that's how it came out. So this one actually was a really big stepping stone for me in learning how to edit colors better in photos.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. This is a great picture. Really awesome.
Thank you.
And then gotta show this one.
Yeah, dude, where'd you get this Funko?
Yeah, what's the story behind that?
All right, so cool. I was like, I wanted to start making these like little inspirational Instagram posts, and I wanted to do it with Funkos. So I think I had so the head of this Funko is Michael B. Jordan, Black Panther. Yeah, Killmonger. Yeah. And because it's like, it kind of looks like my hair, and he has a beard like there. So I was at Half Price Books, and I saw the Killmonger one, and then I went to like a couple other places and finally found the Superman pose that I liked. And so then I swapped the heads. But in order to do that, like you have to dip the top of the head of the Funko in like boiling hot water to loosen the glue, but then you put it on the other one. well, I don't have a stove at the time, so I literally went to Starbucks and I was like, hey, can I have some like that? You know how Starbucks gives you like the most hot water in the world.
Oh God.
So they gave me a cup of hot water, and I just was like right there. I took it, went to the bench or the desk that they had, and then just pulled the Funko out of my backpack and dipped it upside down in there, and then took that did that to both. And then I went to some comic book store that sold paint, like one of like one of those Magic the Gathering kind of places where you can like paint your own little like what am I trying to say? Those little figurines and stuff. How people
Warhammer stuff.
Yeah, like Warhammer stuff. So it was like one of those shops they had in the mall, and I like tried to get a color that matched really well. And then I told them like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to try to match this paint and stuff. So I bought some paint, and I sat down and I painted the hands and the neck of the Funko to match the color, try to match the color brown of the Killmonger thing. And then I just put it back together. And that's how that came about.
So, man, you went from photography to cosplay photography to Funko Pops to now Funko Pop toy photography. You went all the way around.
The thing is, before that, I used to take pictures of toys. Like I had Legos that I would take pictures of, like Lego Star Wars toys and Danbo. I really liked those little Danbo figurines.
Oh yeah. So
I used to take photos of that too, but I wanted to try to incorporate my knowledge of that into this whole Superman aspect. So I think that's why I pretty much wanted to do that, because I was missing the up close photography like with toys, and I wanted to do something Superman like. And that's when I came up with this idea to do my own Funko, because then I could continually shoot when I was missing shooting toys. And that was taken at the Bellevue Botanical Gardens there.
That's cool. I wish I could be like in that Starbucks with like a mom and her kid, like watching you do surgery on a Funko Pop. And like, what is this guy doing?
Why is he
beheading a
drowning him?
Funko Pop? Yeah, he's like ripping his head off. Oh, that's good stuff, man. Awesome. Cool, man.
That's amazing. Wow. Jack of all trades. So you also, if I'm correct here, you also have a YouTube channel.
I do.
Talk about that.
All right. So the YouTube channel is pretty much, well, once I started taking it seriously, I wanted to figure out like how to practice more like videography and stuff like that. So I really like synthwave music a lot, and I got an idea to do like reactions to synthwave music, and I didn't really think it would go anywhere. I mean, it's made a hit in the synthwave community, but like in general, not a lot of people really listen to that type of music. But the main point of why I even started that in the first place was to practice taking video editing. I used to use Final Cut Pro. And then once I finally bought the Creative Cloud suite, I was like, I should probably learn Premiere Pro. So all these videos is me trying to learn color grading, camera mounting, how to do this, how to do that, sync audio. It's all pretty much practice while I'm trying to learn to take videos and stuff for like some other things that I want to do down the road that I might not have anybody else to do for me.
That's awesome.
So it's fun because I get to do that. Like I'm trying to mount that camera all over my car, and then I just bought a GoPro so I could try to mount other places while I'm trying to listen to these like 3, 4, 5 minute long songs. But it's practice for me to learn how to edit for the most part.
That's cool. I think a lot of people geek out on that because it's kind of like learning alongside. So, just by kind of living vicariously through you, they're learning at the same time. So that's cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm on your YouTube right now. Man, some of these videos, damn, like they took off 22K for your reactions and stuff.
Yeah, that was a day when and that one, so there's this song by Daft Punk called Touch. And like that's like one of my favorite songs from that artist. And that was the day that they announced that they broke up.
Oh.
So I did a reaction to that song there. And it was like a pretty emotional reaction. But anyway, yeah, so so like having that thing, because you don't really see a lot of reactions to people while they're driving in their car. So I'm like, this will be a whole different thing anyway.
true. And it's like I feel like a lot of us listen to a lot of good music while we're driving in our car, especially alone.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much more reaction to music alone. Like I don't know, I jam the fuck out.
Yeah. And see, like honestly, and I'm gonna just talk about this too a little bit because one of the other reasons why that I decided to do this was to get out of my comfort zone too. And when I say that is because I don't consume a lot of media myself, and I am like so picky when it comes to what like being spoiled with everything. And I know not everybody's the same. Like with me, I don't even want to. I don't like if I were to ask you if you saw like a movie, I don't even want you to say if it was good or bad, because in my mind, it's like, well, if you say it was good, that means it's like it's got to be like so awesome. Or if you say it was bad, it's got to be like. But you know when people like they don't really mean to spoil something, and they'll say like, "Oh, it was so fun," and then like, you go into the movie thinking like, "Okay, well, this better knock my socks off, or else it's going to be boring." So like before I even see anything, I don't want to know shit about anything. Yeah. But at the same time, that's how I make a lot of content. And doing this YouTube stuff has really gotten me out of my comfort zone, trying to make content for other people. I don't watch reaction videos. I like barely know any YouTubers. I don't go on YouTube except for to watch tutorials and stuff. I don't
how to.
Yeah, that's about it. I don't watch reactions. I don't even watch my own videos after I edit them and post them. But one of the reasons why I'm doing that is because like people like watching reaction videos. I don't. There are people that do. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to practice and do this, like I could do this and see what happens, because I'm only limiting myself thinking that nobody will want to watch it because I don't want to watch it. And so starting that YouTube channel and doing reactions was my way of being like, even though this is something that I don't want to, well, I wanted to do it, even though it's something that I wouldn't normally watch, I'm sure there would be other people that want to watch this. So I'm going to make this to see what happens. Instead of me being like, nobody's going to watch, like, I wouldn't want to watch this. Why would anybody want to? And that's like my whole art thing. Like, you know, we're all, as creators, we're just like, I wouldn't want to watch this shit. So why would anybody else want to? Yeah. And you know what I mean? So that's like, this YouTube channel was me getting out of my own head to do something different.
Yeah, breaking out the norm, or just getting out of your own box, out of your comfort zone, as you mentioned. Yeah, that's amazing. That seems like you've been doing that for a while now, and it's like every so often you're like, all right, cool. Let's see what's the next thing I could get uncomfortable with, and try to be good at it and be master at it, which is awesome, because that's all we've heard of. You finding different levels of mastering what you're looking forward to do in the future. And that being said, we're just over an hour. Wow,
I didn't know that.
Yo, time flies, man. Yo, having a conversation, and it's amazing. I learned so much about you. Like I've been following you for 3.5 years, but like in the last hour and I think 12 minutes, I've learned so much more. I'm like, you know, and that's what I like. Of like when I started this, I want to get to know people that I've been following, talking to for so long, and we got so much out of it, especially from you. Before we start closing up, do you have? You said a lot of motivational things and inspirational things, and I'm sure people will listen and watch this and get a couple of snippets and it'll push them to do something going forward. But like, what message do you have for anyone out there? Any message you have, whatever it's for.
I would say journaling is one of my. If you don't journal already, it might be something to consider to do. It really helps me get all my thoughts out. And two, like how I was saying earlier about thinking things are as bad as they might be. Like, honestly, I have this app called Day One where it's like a journaling app, and you put stuff in there. And then like, if you pull it up, it'll randomly tell you like, on this day, you said this, or this. So it like, I'm going to actually see what I have for today. Okay. So here's 5 years ago. I was so sad because I had $62 in my bank account, and I was like, I need to do something differently. So this is the type of stuff that I talk about and do. So like, I'm sitting there, and I used to smoke cigarettes too. So like, can you imagine? And this is why it's so like easy for me to say like, oh, you know, I've been through some situations. I'm sitting in my van. I'm like eating packs of tuna because I can't really afford anything. I'm like have $50 that I know I got to put gas in my car. And also I'm going to pay $10 for a pack of cigarettes because I'm addicted to nicotine. And I'm sitting there mad at myself smoking with like $60 left, waiting God knows how long for payday. And that's when I'm like, you know what? This is only going to be temporary. So I took a screenshot of my Wells Fargo thing and I put it in an app, and that's what came up today. But yeah, so I'm saying like journaling and writing stuff down that you feel like is like the lowest of the low, to look at it at a later date. It's like having that mentality of if I know I'm going to look at this later, why am I going to let it affect me so bad right now? And that's why I believe in writing down your stuff so much, like your what you're going through.
Yeah, that's amazing. I journal myself, and similar to what you say, like I look back sometimes, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking back then? Like, look at me now. It's kind of like writing a reminder to your future self to be like, hey, you're gonna get past this. You're gonna be all right, and it comes with that mentality.
Right. Exactly.
But again, where can people find you? Which social medias are you on?
I am on everywhere. So I'm really proud to say this, but this is like, if you type in Jonathan Belle into Google or anywhere, you will find me all over the place. I'm proud of that because it took me a long time to learn all this SEO stuff. So
Nice. So Instagram,
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, all the major ones there I'm on.
Awesome. Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It means a lot. As someone who's been following you for so long, we could finally have a conversation. I could call you a friend.
Yes,
it was
having me on the show.
Yeah, it's great talking to you. Great to know your experiences and stories and everything that motivated you and pushed you to get to where you are today, and it was going to continue pushing you. Besides that, everyone listening and watching, go give them a follow on all different platforms. If you're listening to the podcast, please subscribe, please leave a comment. If you guys want me to get anyone else on the show, shoot me a DM, shoot them a DM, tell them to contact me, tell me to contact them. We'll figure something out. Thank you very much for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 6, we're out of here.